In recent developments, Meta Platforms has taken significant action against extortion scams by removing 63,000 Instagram accounts in Nigeria linked to these malicious activities. This decisive move follows the alarming rise in financial sextortion, which has led to tragic outcomes, particularly among teenagers in the U.S. Does this present an opportunity for enhanced online safety measures? Well, today we'll delve into the nuances of this issue with Ola Atoshe, CEO, CoinCoin Exchange. Thank you, Ola, for joining me today.
Yes, very good morning to you, Perpetua.
Absolutely. Well, here we are, and it had to be Nigerians again. How frustrating is it to wake up to such news about your countrymen?
Well, there's quite a lot of us, and there are just as many, even if you permit me to say, even more good people than there are bad people. So it's highly unfortunate that this has happened. And yes, unfortunately, from this part of the world, there are a lot of, bad actors online using social media for a number of nefarious activities. So we welcome the good news. Obviously by Meta, who are working behind the scenes and working hard to sort of remove these bad actors, from their platform, making it safer for all of us.
Right. Well, can we blame this on the economic situation of the country, or what exactly can we blame this on?
Well, to be honest, it's really hard to say. So you could look at it through a number of lenses, right? So criminal behavior. Typically takes roots where the economic situation isn't great. Criminal behavior does require a level of creativity, so folks tend to get creative. They've done the sort of I'm a prince from Nigeria scam for so long that didn't work, and they're sort of changing their tactics, whatever they can do to sort of extort funds and money from unsuspecting and sort of unwilling individuals is sort of what they've turned to doing. And of course, sextortion is just, a new gimmick, if you will, in a long line of online gimmicks. The truth of the matter is there are laws against this, and I'm fairly certain that the Nigerian authorities are working as hard as they can, and where necessary, they're catching some of these culprits and dealing them some good justice.
Right now, beyond the Instagram accounts that were deleted, Meta said many of the Facebook pages and groups that it removed were affiliated with members of the Yahoo Boys who were attempting to organize, recruit, and trade new scammers. I mean, that's not even all. My concern is those groups in question are on a particular social media site, and they were selling blackmail scripts, scam guides, and sharing links to photos that could be used to legitimize fake accounts. Should we tag this an algorithm inefficiency or a failure of content moderation on the part of these social media platforms?
Well, some of the algos on the social media platforms are constantly learning. And in some instances, the algos will catch out, these bad actors. Unfortunately, there is always something else that they can try just to sort of get through. And with things, as you say, getting access to, people's information, whether it's their digital information, to then use that information to make financial applications and that sort of stuff. This does happen. And of course, the situation with the younger folk, which is, quite disheartening, specifically sextortion. Once they're able to trick some unsuspecting individual to give up images of themselves, they then obviously turn around and then use those images against them. If you have an army of people doing this, it is a certainty that one or two will fall culprit, and of course, one or two will decide to sort of pay out these funds. So again, as I say, we welcome the efforts by Meta, but I think in Nigeria, people need to be aware that there is a law against misinformation, spreading falsehoods online. And it is something which I feel that the Nigerian authorities need to perhaps spend some time looking into further to be able to, counter what these individuals, be they Yahoo boys or whoever they may be, it will be good for them to sort of start looking into that and determine who these folks are and make an example out of them, right? There has to be some deliberate action on part of the authorities here in Nigeria.
Well, while you're talking about, some deliberate action, I'm just wondering if there really is any law in place that sort of maybe could help in this situation. For example, when we talk about sextortion, just like you said, it targets minors in the US, and that's quite sad. But however, in the case that there are minors outside the US or even adults in other places like Nigeria who are being targeted, do we have laws or regulations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children or anything close actually that can address these issues?
I have to be honest, I'm unfortunately not a social media expert, but there is a bill which I believe passed the Senate in 2019, which focuses on all, sort of falsehoods which may be perpetuated online. And I believe that bill encompasses almost everything. I think it's also poignant on all of us, I guess, and certainly with young people, parents, to train their children or certainly give their children enough information to know what they should and shouldn't do online. And a lot of guidance and sort of education around do's and don'ts, with personal information, personal photos, all that type of stuff. I think there's a need to sort of, provide some information, training, guidance, to young folk, especially perhaps at schools, maybe, or even on Facebook itself or Instagram, a campaign, if you wish. So young folk are made aware of, these things that happen, and sort of, give them some sort of confidence on what has to happen if one or two of them fall culprit to these, bad actors. So I think a lot of education would help. Personally, I think a lot of campaigning around this particular issue, sextortion, should be done perhaps locally by the schools here in Nigeria, the Ministry of Education, perhaps looking to sort of, running a campaign of awareness around these issues. And of course, I also feel that those who are, perpetuating these issues, should be made an example of, right? We need to find out who they are, where they are, and make examples of them. It's almost, again, it's breaking the law. It's hurting people, as you say, people are committing suicide. And I personally feel that, the folks doing this should be held to account.
Well, the global cost of cybercrime is supposed to, surge up to $10.5 trillion by 2025. So beyond extortion, I need you to talk to us about other forms of cybercrimes, their prevalence and impact on businesses. I mean, looking at $10.5 trillion, that's a whole lot, if you ask me.
Yes, of course. I mean, there are several things. I mean, even moving away from sextortion or a number of other sort of, online issues, a lot of folk receive information in their inboxes, their email inboxes, or their messages on WhatsApp or Instagram, with links. One of the rules is if you don't know what it is, delete it. If it's come from a strange source that you don't know, delete it. Right? Don't click any random link. Right? So that's sort of what I'd say, because a lot of these phishing links, as they're known, they lure you into these websites, which sometimes mimic real websites. They force you to enter your details, and they use all that information. They gather that information in some cases, and they then tend to use it against you. Either use it, for financial, to sell that information on to others, or use it themselves to commit a number of, crimes. Either they, for example, apply for a loan or credit card in your name and all these sort of things. So my personal view is that we need to be aware that these things are happening in real time. Folks are constantly trying to get access, not just to your information, using phishing links, but sometimes they're trying to get access to your passwords, right? So no one, I believe, will willingly hand over sort of photos of themselves to a stranger, But what they tend to do is trick you into giving up your username and password to an email account. And once you do that, they can then have access to your personal information and then try to use that against you. So I think it's pertinent on all of us to be watchful, to be careful. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to young folk, sort of, provide them with some information and knowledge around do's and don'ts when on the internet.
I'd like you to talk more about the impact on businesses, because I recall that recently when we had the data that was released about how much this has cost Nigeria, what we saw was that the federal government started talking about a particular cybersecurity levy, which of course is no longer on the table now.
Well, I mean, cybercrime of all forms, again, I think the onus should be put on, education and sort of awareness and training folk on do's and don'ts. There are a lot of, I could be honest, I could speak about my own email inbox. I receive random emails from folk I don't know every day, right? I simply don't click any links that I don't recognize, and I tend to delete emails that I don't recognize, or, just have them put into a DMZ or something, right? So we all have to be wary of information that comes into us electronically, whether it's a WhatsApp message or, whatever it is. We have to do the work ourselves. With regards to business specifically, it's still the same thing, right? If you have a business which, runs on a variety of different services, which are cloud-based services, you will always receive emails which will try to trick you to providing information about your business, or in most cases, providing usernames and passwords either to your inbox or whatever it may be. And these things can be quite costly to businesses. A lot of businesses in recent times have been culprit to ransomware and all sorts. So, and it all stems from the same thing, clicking the wrong links, right? So I think the onus is on awareness, education, and knowledge. And I think businesses across the country, even government offices everywhere, we all need to have a program where we train our staff and, folk we work with on do's and don'ts when it comes to use of the internet to prevent these cybercrime or cyber criminals and the activities, they're involved in.
Well, back to the ones that glide on social media. We're talking about networks here, which will make it difficult to sort of track, trace, and even spot them in good time. Now, what steps do you think can be taken at both local and international levels to dismantle such networks? Because, in that report, we're talking about, how that there is a network where they train, share scripts, and all of those things. And then add to that, do you see an interplay here between balancing user privacy with the need to monitor and prevent criminal activities effectively?
Well, I think with regards to these networks, I think the Whistleblower Act should apply. If you see if you are aware of any networks where folks are committing these crimes, blow the whistle, right? And perhaps get rewarded for that. I think that's certainly something that, the Nigerian authorities could consider. These things obviously happening in broad daylight. There are networks of people doing this. We can incentivize whistleblowers to sort of come forward with any information they may have on some of these bad actors. I think that's one potential solution. Another thing that we could perhaps consider is, as you mentioned earlier, the algorithms on social media. If a new account is created, and I believe Meta, Instagram, Facebook, parent company are already doing this, there is a requirement for basic KYC before actually using the platform, to do, send messages to strangers or whatnot. And without affecting the business model of Facebook, I think it's quite possible for those companies to have their algos trained considerably to sort of pick up on, typical, user behavior from this region of the world, right? They all do the same thing, these networks.
Right, Olab, just before you go, I won't let you go without asking you this. There are reports in some quarters. This is not about cybersecurity now. This is about, the industry where you play hard. Now, there are reports in some quarters that the federal government is trying to frustrate foreign players in the crypto or virtual asset space. Is that what it is? Let me get your thoughts on that in less than a minute.
No, not at all. The idea is there are a lot of local players who bring so much to the table when it comes to cryptocurrency. Coin, of course, is one. And the idea really is we need to focus on building the local network and bringing what the local players can bring to the table before looking at the foreign players. So there's room for everyone in our space, and it's a very large market. And I'm sure the SEC, along with the other regulating bodies, welcome foreign participation in Nigeria. But at the same time, there will be a need for us to put some of the best and brightest we have in Nigeria forward. Perhaps before looking at the foreign players.
All right, Olatosha, CEO, CoinCoin Exchange, thank you for your time and thoughts on the show today.
Always a pleasure, Professor.